Alright, well that was surprisingly emotional. Frankenstein is a brand new Gothic science fiction film from director Guillermo del Toro starring Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, and Jacob Elordi. And this is a film that I feel like has had a lot of buzz. We haven't really had a good Frankenstein movie in quite some time, and so when they announced that they were doing one and Guillermo del Toro was behind it, it just kind of seemed like a match made in a dark tower. But since this is a Netflix film, I wasn't so sure what I was stepping into, especially getting the opportunity to go see this on the big screen, see something from Netflix on the big screen. But man, this movie, it was not at all what I was expecting, and that's a great thing. My friends, I think this movie is Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece. So let's talk about it. What is up, my friends? My name is Danny. Welcome back to Jones Vibes. I do want to let you know off the top, this will be a spoiler-free review, so don't worry about anything like that. Feel free to stick around, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and without further ado, let's talk Frankenstein. So the synopsis reads, a brilliant but egotistical scientist brings a monstrous creature to life in a daring experiment that ultimately leads to the undoing of both the creator and his tragic creation. And you know, heading into this thing, I really had no idea what was going on. You might make fun of me because I'm just not as cultured as some or well-read as some. I knew that there was a novel, like a famous novel about Frankenstein, but I had no idea that this movie was a sort of adaptation of that novel. If you're unfamiliar, it was written in 1818 by Mary Shelley, and I'd be very curious to know just how close of an adaptation it was, because as insane as it is to say, it felt like Pride and Prejudice, kinda. It's this sprawling epic that is so rich in history, and there's so much beauty in the writing, so much beauty in the dialogue, and that's why I say it felt like an adaptation. It felt like a novel brought to life. And here I was walking in like, so does this guy just kill a bunch of people or what's up? And honestly, yes, he does. I guess that's something to note. Going into this film, whatever your expectation is, you're probably going to get it. This movie is probably going to deliver on whatever that thing that you want out of it is. There are a lot of gruesome deaths, there is high stakes action, but there's also just so much more to it. I guess if you were thinking that it's just going to be a straight up horror film, it's definitely not that. Really, the best word that comes to mind, the word that came to mind when I was walking out of the screening was epic. And I think a lot of that has to do with Guillermo del Toro's decision making. Like, the reason why I say this might just be Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece is because he went practical with pretty much everything. The landscape and the outside shots are actually outside. They're actually out in the countryside. When Victor is standing up in this tower and he's bringing this monster to life, the entire set is practical. All the machinery, all the things around him are these big practical pieces. And when those crazy moments happen, those iconic Frankenstein moments happen, you have the lightning going on. It's a piece of art. The amount of detail in the costumes and the prosthetics and the makeup is insane. And because it is Guillermo, it's just kind of a vibe. A dark, goth, dare I say, kind of sexy vibe. But speaking of sexy, let's talk about the cast a little bit. Christoph Waltz is in this movie. You see what I did there? I got you, didn't I? And I honestly didn't expect that at all. I was so happy to see Christoph Waltz in this. Honestly, the supporting cast in general, you just have all of these iconic faces, all of these iconic actors popping up everywhere. I think when it comes to a director like this, it's kind of like Christopher Nolan. People just want to work with them, you know? So all of a sudden you're in a scene and all of a sudden it's Ralph Ineson and you're like, oh damn, that's Ralph Ineson. All of a sudden David Bradley shows up and you're like, hey, all of a sudden Paige from Degrassi shows up and you're like, oh my god. But the movie doesn't work without its main trio. We'll start with Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac is absolutely incredible as Victor Frankenstein. The story is told in a certain format. Like, for part of it, he's describing his side of the story, and so you have a little bit of narration going on, as well as a lot of added depth for the character that, frankly, I never understood about Victor Frankenstein. To me, he was always just the crazy scientist right next to the machine, and he pulls the lever, and all of a sudden Frankenstein's like, oh! But this movie gets really personal with this character. And dude, Oscar Isaac's freaking passion and his charisma, it's infectious, but like the manicness, I don't know if that's a word, and like the psychoticness, just the gleam in his eye when he's creating the monster, you believe it. Again, it's very believable, and you're looking at him and you're like, yeah, that guy's crazy, that checks out. As far as this role in this movie, the character of Victor Frankenstein, I don't even know as an actor how you would attempt to get yourself to this place, just when it comes to the history and how famous of a character it is, but to see him step into this and just absolutely body the role, oh my god, dude. It's something that, or I guess it's a performance so good that it makes you want to watch the film again. And that doesn't happen all the time with every movie. You know know what I mean? A movie might be great and you want to watch it again because it's great, but sometimes the performance is so good that you want to watch it again for that, and Oscar Isaac definitely had that. But moving on, we have Mia Goth. And I will be absolutely honest, she is one of my favorite working actresses in the business right now. Side note, if you haven't seen the Maxine trilogy, like if you're not that familiar with Mia Goth, do yourself a favor and go watch X and watch Pearl and watch Maxine. It's absolutely worth it, and you'll see why everybody talks about Mia Goth. But her stepping into this, I was just so excited getting to see her step into something like this. This is a big project. This is Guillermo del Toro. This is Netflix, you know what I mean? And in this story, she primarily, I should say, plays Elizabeth. She's the fiance of Victor's younger brother, but you'll also notice that she briefly plays Victor's mother. And for me, I mean, I know I am a big fan of Mia Goth, but I think you'll find this even if you don't know her. It just seems like every single time she speaks, anytime she has a line of dialogue, she just commands your attention. I don't know what it is about her, and not many actresses have it, but whatever it is, she has it. And when it comes to her character, she's the character that kind of can see the beauty in the monster, and so there's just a lot of really raw and deep emotional moments that lend themselves to that. But I mean, the counterpart to a lot of those moments is the star of the show, Jacob Elordi, playing Frankenstein. And if you thought he was playing Nate Jacobs again like I did, yeah, you're wrong. But he plays the monster so well, and I think the thing that surprised me the most was the amount of screen time that Frankenstein has, that this monster has, as well as the amount of dialogue that he has. When you cast somebody like Jacob Elordi, somebody as talented as him, you do kind of hope that he's going to have some sort of a speaking role, and they give him that time. When I talked about like the format of this story, you have Victor narrating one side of it, and you also have Frankenstein kind of telling his story. And it was shocking to see somebody like Jacob Elordi. I'm sure we can all agree he's one of the rising stars at the moment. He's one of the young stars in Hollywood at the moment, but I didn't expect to be walking out of the screening going, I don't see why that guy doesn't get nominated for this. I honestly think he could win an award for this. When you see it, I think you'll understand. He's absolutely incredible, and the physical toll alone that this would take on anybody that was cast in this role would be insane, but somehow he just does it. And the fact that he was able to give such a nuanced performance, such a Shakespearean performance with this character, but also find some way to be as terrifying as ever. You know what I mean? He's everything you would expect out of Frankenstein. He's absolutely scary, but then there is this soft tone to him. But I have two more things I want to talk about before heading out. The first is just the possibilities. For so long, to me at least, it has just felt like every movie is just blanketed in CGI. And when that happens, the world feels empty. But this movie, it felt like an old school classic. We should encourage filmmaking like this. Like, if you like this movie, I encourage you to use your voice and support films like this. Support the practicality of it all. Leave comments, make a review talking about how cool the sets were and stuff like that, because it needs to be a message that is heard by the people making these things. We want more of this. This is what it felt like to me growing up, watching a lot of these freaking epics. And again, these days, a lot of these films just don't feel like they have the same soul as something like this does. It really feels like Guillermo gave everything he had to this film, and as an audience member and as a critic, I appreciate it. You can see the effort written all over this thing. And the second thing I want to talk about, and you can call me a shill or whatever, I don't even give a shit, I want to shout out Netflix. I want to shout them out for actually putting this thing in movie theaters, albeit it is for select cities, it is in select movie theaters, and it is a damn shame that so many people are not going to be able to see this thing in movie theaters. I do think that is incredibly unfair, so I'm like calling them out while also kind of praising them. The reason for the praise is just that this is a sign. This is a sign of change. There are a lot of projects that come out on Netflix that don't get this opportunity, and I feel like we're moving in a positive direction in it, because a movie like this does deserve to be seen in a cinema. It deserves to be seen on the biggest screen possible. That's not to say that you're not going to have the best time ever watching it at home. And I'm so freaking excited that on November 7th, I'm going to be able to sit down and watch this movie whenever I want. It's a give and take, you know what I mean? But I do give them props for playing this in movie theaters at least, and not just being like, nope, we're only doing streaming. That's it. We're not giving anybody access to movie theaters. But yeah, man, I have a lot more thoughts, but that about wraps it up. Shout out out to Guillermo del Toro. Shout out to Frankenstein. What's up, Frank? And as always, I do want to give my Jones vibes rating. I'm switching things up a little bit from what I normally do. I usually just do a star rating, but I am changing a bit so you guys can see kind of the process of how I rate these things. So as far as sound for the movie goes, I'm going 8 out of 10. The score for this thing wasn't life-changing, but I thought it was beautiful. Visuals, I'm going 10. It was just like, it was peak visuals. Performance, I'm going 10 again. Plot, I'd say that the storytelling angle worked for me, but it was a bit of a ramble fest at times, so I'm giving it a 9. And then pace, I'd say 8, purely because it does have a few lulls that maybe could have been trimmed down a little bit. It's a long movie, but all of that adds up to an A-, and I got no doubt about that. But take a moment and let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. I would love to know what you thought about Frankenstein. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel here, but more than anything, my friends, I hope you're out there keeping up the good vibes, and I will see you in the next review, all right? Peace!